Hello and welcome to the show. We at FailRace are very big fans of the V8 Supercars, and it's not exactly surprising that there would be a V8 Supercar Championship going on. Now, I had initially intended on doing videos on this much the same way that I did with the Touring Car Championship from Forza 5. Unfortunately, the main race, the replay, was completely and utterly bugged, so yeah, it kind of didn't work. A bunch of people tried to save it, none of the replays worked, which was a little bit of a shame. However, the sprint race, the replay works absolutely fine, and it was a fantastic race. So I still wanted to do a video on just the sprint race alone. Now, this particular race, it was a reverse grid from the results of the first race. A whole heap of cars stalled, me included, down towards the back on the field. I think about 4 or 5 of us managed to stall our cars on the start line. Yeah, we did not have the greatest of getaways here at the Watkins Glen circuit. However, we did get through turn 1 cleanly, a couple of cars escaping the trap. My Volvo teammate was also one of the vehicles that went quite wide through there. We were trying to fit so many cars into such a small piece of road. There was a Holden out in the fence coming up the S's. The lead Holden, I think, got a win on the curb. The curves were nasty at the top of this hill. The speed you were going, and you could kind of hit them quite hard with these cars, could cause a lot of problems. So we saw a Holden there get suckered onto the grass. Everybody made it to the bus stop, and while it was a bit of too wide going on further back, everybody made it through the bus stop relatively cleanly as well. We're trying to fit 3 cars out of this very, very long corner. That is always likely to be a recipe for disaster, trying to fit 3 vehicles, and unfortunately the Holden bumps the Mercedes bumps the Ford. I think the Ford ends up in the grass out a little bit wide. He does recover some cars further back, find their way into the tyre bundle on that particular corner. This Mallow and Mercedes we're following at the moment is coming under threat from the Volvo. Volvo tried the Brave around the outside. That is a tough place to go around the outside. Couldn't make it stick. It's a really tough corner, that one. You saw a lot of cars up ahead spinning their wheels as the Holden out-accelerates the Ford there, because the way that the corner is up there, it's so easy to get sideways, lose a whole heap of time. The leader out-braked himself and spun his Ford around on the grass as the rest of us come piling past. So this is now a many-car battle for the lead, with a Holden leading a Ford, leading a Mercedes, and then some Nissans, and then all sorts of crazy. As I said, this was a full result reverse grid for this race, so the very, very quick cars were trying to make their way through the order. This black Nissan was the victor from the main race. He actually had a pretty good start, cutting through the field as he tries to get alongside a Mercedes out of turn 1, and he does get someone very far off track in the background there. He has a much better drive than the Merc coming out of that first corner. Then up the hill, the Xbox Falcon ran a little bit wide on the way up there. The Nissan tries to get alongside. Nissan hits the curb though on the inside. That bounced him out wide. Probably has to have a little lift to avoid going in the wall in the grass. Loses 3 places. 3 places from that bump on the curb alone. Things would go wrong though. The blue Mercedes hit the curb too hard on the inside. That spun him around, poured smoke out. We all tried to scramble and avoid him. I took to the grass on the inside to try to avoid him. Nissan followed me as well, all trying to avoid the spinning Mercedes. Yeah, unfortunately for the poor Mercedes, he'd get dropped right down the order. This Nissan survived, but again lost a whole heap of time in all of that. At the front, and the Holden was just about holding on to the lead, coming under increasing pressure from the Volvo, looking for a way past. He tried the outside, but we were finding overtaking was quite difficult. These cars, very evenly matched vehicles. Overtaking was proving to be quite difficult. You really had to time your manoeuvre right, and as the Holden got a slide coming up the hill, that gave the Volvo an opportunity to get up the inside. This is a good spot for getting an overtake. The Volvo gets up the inside, just does enough. The Holden tries to cut back on it. Very, very easy to kind of outbrake yourself a little bit, trying to get that pass done. Volvo does a good job. You saw how close, millimetres separating the 2 cars. The Volvo taking the lead. The Holden falling back into line. Now they're being caught by 2 Mercedes. You've got to be very careful, especially when you find yourself in, let's say, the 2nd position here. It's very easy to go maximum attack trying to get ahead of the leader. You push it a little too hard, make a little mistake, and both Mercedes are going to come pouring past. The Volvo was actually a little bit sluggish through these final couple of corners. However, he got well enough onto this straight. The Holden just wasn't quite within range as they run down towards turn 1. I was in the thick of all of the battles. Yeah, I think I came 4th in the first race, so I started well down towards the back of the grid in this one, and having stalled on the line like an idiot, we had got a lot of work to do. I was bringing one of the very, very quick Nissans with me. I got millimetres away from the wall, sliding the Volvo through that section. Unfortunately, the red holder will make a mistake up the hill and drop back through the order. Yeah, I was very sideways up against the wall. My favourite part of the track, and the part of the track that I am by far best at, this bus stop chicane. You can see the amount of ground I could make up on the Nissan through that part. Admittedly, the Nissan didn't have quite such a good run through there this time. But yeah, I was keeping the Nissan at bay by being quick through this first section. I was not so good through this this next bit. But in this next shot, you can see how close it all was. The leader, the Volvo, my teammate's Volvo, is just at the front of this little train, and this is like the top 8, top 9 cars within one camera shot. In the kind of early stages of this. It was a fantastically close race, as we were now trying to close onto the back of one of the Xbox Falcons as we run up this hill. Such a nasty corner with these Volvos. Nissan behind me goes to the inside. I just move across. I think he was more just kind of trying to distract me. He wasn't really close enough. None of us were really quite close enough. I tried to do a similar thing with the Falcon ahead. Couldn't quite get it to work. I got a big slide out of the corner that cost me a little bit of time. This was at the front of the train, fighting over 4th place. I think the Maliwan Mercedes may have had a little off and dropped back. He was trying to find a way past a Falcon. Goes for the incredibly brave around the outside of the final turn. Very rarely works. He so nearly does it. Just dips a wheel on the curb. It's enough to tip the Mercedes slightly sideways. Bounces off the door of the Falcon. That puts him on the grass. Get away without causing too much damage. Normally if you go sideways on the grass there, you're going to have a lot of issues, but he manages to recover it, but immediately come under fire from a Nissan. They both get bumped out a little bit wide. Mercedes get back on track ahead, and now we're going to have 5 cars, absolute train up the S's there. It is so hard being in the middle of this because you just don't see a thing. You follow the car ahead and hope that they make the corner, because you're not going to see a thing whatsoever. I tried to make a move on the Falcon, would get alongside the Nissan, got a much better run. The Nissan would try and have a go, couldn't quite make it stick. Mercedes managed to fend off the Nissan down the sort of the little back straight bit. It was a rather crazy racing, and you can see how easy it is to lose time. It's so easy to get stuck in battles like this. Even if you're quite a bit quicker than the cars ahead, it's so easy to get stuck in groups like this, unable to make progress because the cars are evenly matched, and if the driver knows what they're doing defending wise, it can be a real pain trying to get past them. That's what me and the Nissan here were finding at the back of the group. We had very quick cars, but we just couldn't make a move stick. Tried to get to the inside of the Falcon, couldn't quite get far enough alongside. I really thought the Nissan was going to get a better run down this little straight. He didn't quite again. He looks to the inside, but I can cover the inside. I can defend into this next corner. But of course, as soon as I'm starting to defend from him, the car, I'm letting the Falcon off a little bit up ahead. He gets a slow run out of the corner, though, which is all the opportunity I need to try and get the Volvo up alongside the Ford, and the Nissan up ahead are fighting there side by side. We're now going to go 2 by 2 into these final couple of corners. These are fast corners as well through here. Very little in the way of breaking through these corners. There's unfortunately some slight laggy bumping going on as we come into this final corner, and still we go 2 by 2. I'm going to lose a spot to the Nissan. The Red Falcon's lost all of the positions trying to get past his Nissan. The Nissan's up alongside and past the Falcon. I'm determined to follow as well. I don't want to get stuck behind the Xbox car any longer. Unfortunately though, some annoying lag would just small lag bumps would see both of us fired off on the runoff area of turn 1. I managed to rejoin just ahead of the black Nissan there, and we carry on this fantastic battle. Falcon gets a little too close for comfort with the wall. I mean, that was all the fighting inside the top 10. Outside the top 10, it was all going on. I think this was for around like 15th place at this stage in the race between these cars. A couple of Falcons. The blue Mercedes we saw had some issues at the start, was trying to recover. His car was very quick as well. As we come up the hill, there's a little bit of sliding from both the cars up ahead. Holden's had a much bigger moment, probably bounced it off a curb, and will put that car very sideways. Everybody does an incredible job of avoiding that car. Unfortunately, the Holden Motorsport car here, sorry, the Holland Motorsport car here would yeah, find himself in the wall trying to avoid the slight crazy, and still, after that, recovered, is now looking for a way back past. Immediately tries to get the inside of this long corner. Not a particularly great overtaking spot. This one here is also a fairly tough one. Gets his car up the inside, though. We didn't see very many overtakes into that particular corner, but the Ford here is alongside and gets the move done, and there is no way the other Falcon can come back. At the front, and the Volvo was still leading, a little bit calmer towards the front of this field. Yeah, the Volvo was leading from a Mercedes. It wasn't exactly a safe lead at this stage of the race. They were close. It was never really close enough for the Mercedes to seriously challenge. It was never quite close enough to seriously have a look. The Volvo wasn't having to go defensive into these corners, but you can see they were running very, very close on track. There was a Mercedes in third as well, a little bit further back. You might have just about seen him in the background. I was still very much in the thick of it, fighting with these Nissans. I spent just the entire race fighting with Nissans. I managed to get myself back past the Nissan Motorsport car up the inside coming up the hill, which is quite a tough manoeuvre to manage up ahead. And Nissan, the other of the Nissan Motorsport cars, and a Falcon, they were having a scrap themselves. The Falcon goes to the inside again. We see just slightly little laggy bumps that cause them some issues. I'm forced to take avoiding action around the outside. Cost me a couple of positions in all of that. Cost the Falcon a lot more, as yeah, I had to kind of an awkward position for me really to avoid them. I had to go the long way around. I wasn't too displeased though. I knew the two Nissans ahead were very, very quick cars. I was kind of happy to sit with them and potentially kind of race towards the front cars if I could just keep up with them and follow them through the field. Unfortunately, almost immediately, a silly mistake by me. I just see I put a wheel on the grass as I go to turn in. That puts the Volvo very, very sideways. I tried to keep my foot in, and that made everything worse. Managed to catch it, but just that slide alone cost me 3 places. And any chance of following the Nissans through the field was now long gone. As up ahead, the two Falcons are going side by side through turn 1. As Mercedes trying to go around the outside of the Xbox car at turn 1 didn't quite work. The Falcons managed to sort themselves out before trying to fit both cars up through the S's. I get a very, very quick run up through here, but can't quite do anything, and then bus stop is such a difficult place to get overtaking manoeuvres done. As I said, this blue Mercedes came second in the first race, was very, very quick, but just got stuck in all of the traffic, and this is something that can happen with these kind of cars. He just really, really struggled to make his way past. He was tangling with one of the Xbox Falcons as we run down here. Outbrakes himself a little bit, runs wide. The Xbox Falcon is going to have that position right back. There's a Holden behind as well, ready and waiting. You see up ahead of this group, cars are still fighting. And this is getting towards the end of the race now, and still we were all fighting like this. It was fantastic fun with these cars. Mercedes tries to go around the outside up the hill. That's not a likely manoeuvre to work doing that. Cuts back to the inside, a much more sensible position to try and get an overtake as we run down towards this next corner. The Holden is though still right in there, and the Holden wants to follow the Mercedes through as we round this next corner. The Falcon doesn't really have much choice around there. It's very tough to go around the outside of that particular corner. The Falcon can't hold it. The Holden can't quite get past the Ford either. This was the mighty tussle for 6th. After my little sliding incident, it wouldn't take long for me to get right back on the bumper of these cars. The problem was, I was having a real tough time trying to get past them because they were so busy fighting each other, which made there was very little space for a Volvo. They slightly tangled, just little bumps into this hairpin. I tried to get both of them in one go. Very nearly works as well, but I'm stuck on the outside for this next corner. Couldn't quite do it. I was trying to cut back to the inside on the Nissan. Got to be aware that the Falcon was right there, so couldn't kind of move across too much. Didn't want to spin myself out on the front of his car. We get through it though without too many problems. I got past one of these battling cars, but I wanted to get past the Nissan quickly. I didn't want to give the Ford a chance to try coming back at the Volvo, and sure enough, Ford runs a little bit wide out the final corner, brushes the wall. I get a very, very quick run out of here as we come up towards turn 1. Turn 1, one of the better overtaking spots around this track as well. I have a big go up the inside. We're millimeters apart through this first corner. The Nissan holds it on the outside, but even if you manage that, you're stuck on the outside as we come through the S's. He just can't quite carry the speed up here. I give him space, and we all manage to fit through the S's just about. It's incredibly close between all three of us, but we get out the other side in one piece and all pointing in the right direction, which is the important thing. Then we come up towards the bus stop. The Nissan, very, very quick, carried a lot of speed through this first part of the corner, but when you do that, you tend to overshoot the next part, so you tend to run a little bit wide through here. You tend to be a little bit slow into this long corner as well, which wasn't helping the Nissan because the Ford is now right behind. The other Holland Motorsport car was catching up as well. You can see in the background there, slightly sliding out of that corner. The Falcon goes for the Brave. I never thought this maneuver was going to work around the outside. That is a really tough corner to get an overtake that on the inside. To go around the outside of somebody there, though, that's really quite impressive, and the Falcon would move up into a 7th place. You see how much time that battle cost, how much the Ford at the back of that group caught up. At the front, though, and it was my teammates Volvo that would go on to take victory. The race calmed down a little bit up here. I think the Mercedes made a slight mistake, settled for second, and kind of just didn't want to make any more silly mistakes. So the Volvo would end up with a relatively decent gap back to the chasing pack. It was an absolutely crazy race, this one. So much was going on. The Volvo managing to get to the front relatively early on could avoid a lot of the chaos, could run in some clean air for a while, is always useful. The two Nissans that I'd hoped to follow through the field, they were incredibly quick. Once released from all the battles in the closing stages, they would catch towards second and third. The two Mercedes you could see up ahead just ran out of time. They just couldn't quite catch up to the vehicles in time before they would run out of the laps. I mean, they would run like this for pretty much the closing sort of 3 laps, this close together, pushing their cars, trying to catch up to the front guys. But you lose so much time when you're in battles like we were for a good half the race. You lose so much time to the leaders that, they just wouldn't quite have the time to make it up, as we see. Black Nissan goes a little bit exploring, pushing as hard as he can on this final lap, runs a little bit too wide. Mercedes around the final corner nicely, and one of the Nissans ends up in the wall. But it is second and third for the Mercedes, 4th and 5th for the Nissans. I would get 6th in my Volvo. The highest place Ford would be in 7th. And further back still, I mean, this is the 10th place between these cars. We've got another one of the Nissans fighting with a Mercedes. The Mercedes that was trying frantically to make his way through the order, was looking for a way past, but these final corners are so difficult to overtake. The Mercedes, I think, wanted to go for a cutback, just couldn't quite get his car far enough across, ends up having to almost push the Nissan towards the line. Just no room to go through there. The Mercedes would have to settle for 11th. The Nissan taking 10th place. For a sprint race, this was it was bloody good fun. The V8 Supercars, it was some incredible racing. I mean, we were running in groups of 4 or 5 cars, millimeters apart, and on the most part, it all worked without too many incidents. Most of the incidents, the spins that we had, were cars bouncing off curbs awkwardly. We saw a couple of cars go at the top of the S's, bouncing off curbs. We saw one go at the bus stop across the big curbs. So the racing was phenomenal with these vehicles around Watkins Glen. Little difficult to overtake at this circuit. I think that's what made it as exciting as it was. It bunched the pack up. The start was a little bit awful with everybody stalling, but once we'd got going, I had a lot of fun. It was an awful lot of fun racing these cars as close as they were. And a Volvo took victory. It wasn't mine, but a Volvo took victory, so that's always good. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.